Whenever you guys want to order some discs, go to
discgolfmarket.com. Promo code HOMESLICE. Enjoy the video. What is up? It's Brad and Travis of
That's me.
HOMESLICE. And we're doing another review. We've got some fairway drivers for you today. What are we looking at?
I have a Discmania FD. You have
A Latitude 64 River. The River and the FD. You can kind of see in the River here, it's got a little bit more of that slope than what you're going to have in the FD. This is a little bit flatter. As far as the rim, they're your typical like 7-speed. They've got the rim is not that wide, and they're also not very deep.
the Discmania FD. So this disc is a great disc to figure out whether your form is correct or not. You throw this on an ante, it rides the ante. You throw it straight, it lands slightly on a hyzer. You throw it hyzer, it'll flip up into a headwind and then end on a hyzer. This disc was a little bit more stable than the numbers depict, I'd say. It's great, it's a great all-around disc. I mean, you can really shape your shots. You throw it right there, I think that was a hyzer. It's slowly turning, it pans left to right, and then ends pretty nicely to the left. The C line and S line, I didn't really see any difference in the plastics. The S line felt great, the C line felt really nice too. I like the Discmania plastics. When you throw it on an ante, you can see how it just holds the line. Like, I don't even think it came out of it. It just landed on an ante, but panned left to right nicely. Grip, it feels really great in your hand. Forehand, I would be a little touchy when throwing into a headwind. It's a little speed sensitive with the forehand, but when I threw it softly on a flat release, it kind of panned left and then ended right. It was a really nice flying forehand disc for me. Tunnel shots up to 300 feet probably is where I'd use this disc. The Latitude 64 River. This is a great fairway driver for hyzer flips. So you throw it on a hyzer, you can see it turns, kind of fades out at the end. You throw it flat, it holds that ante, probably won't come out of it. And if you throw it on an anhyzer, you'll probably roll it actually if you throw it into a headwind. Not the best headwind disc. That was a hyzer flip. It just keeps turning. I really put a lot on that one. So if you crank it, that's on an ante. It's hard to see, but it just tries to roll. Into a headwind, like I said, be careful. Really put some hyzer on it and take some off, especially if you can throw, we'll say 350 to 400. You'll be able to flip this disc pretty easy. Forehand, again, this is just a great hyzer flip to flat, maybe a little bit of turn out of it, and it'll fade. So nice and soft, throw it flat, and give it some height, it fades out. It's really easy for me to get this thing out to 80 yards, and it just flies nice and straight.
So the FD, the S line and the C line, the flights were very similar with both of them. They were both pretty new discs, and they weren't as understable as I was expecting them to be. So for me, they were, if I threw it on an ante, it would ride that ante but it would kind of fight out of it at the end. If I threw it flat, I might be able to get a little bit of S on it, and then it would fade out at the end, but I also wasn't throwing very well this day, so that definitely had an effect on it. A hyzer, if you're throwing a little bit harder, you'd be able to hyzer flip it for sure, but for me on this day, it was just kind of, it would ride that hyzer the whole way. I know I tried to throw it as a roller, and it didn't work, but I'm sure somebody could. Yeah, there it is. And it just held in the air. It was just kind of a sky ante, and then it crashed into the bleachers. But I mean, it could definitely be a good fairway driver for you. So the river, this was a little bit less stable than the FD, but still more stable than I thought it was going to be. We had it in the frost line and in opto. The frost line was definitely a little more stable, and these have both been bagged, not by us, but by a couple other people. So they were probably they were similarly worn in. For this, if I put it on an ante, if I gave it some height, it wouldn't really fight out of it. It was, like I said, it was a little bit less stable than the FD. If I threw it flat, I'd get a little bit more S out of it, and it still might fight out of it. And then hyzer, probably going to be able to hyzer flip it a little bit easier. Again, this could be a very useful disc for you, because if you've got very consistent form, then you're going to be able to really shape these shots, because it's going to hold that ante. You'll be able to hyzer flip it. I mean, these are both useful discs. Again, I tried a roller there, and it kind of stood up. I didn't get it down quick enough, so but you could definitely throw it with these. Okay, recap time. Hey, Trav,
What did we pick?
what'd you pick?
I picked the FD over the river. These discs, from the numbers and looking online, I thought would be closer. So this was my bad. This is just more stable. It was more predictable for my arm speed and whatnot. The river is great for anyone that has a little slower arm speed for the hyzer flips. But for me, it was a little bit less predictable, specifically in the headwind. So I went with the FD. Great glide. Just a great overall disc. I mean, you throw it, hyzer, we already talked about it. It's just great to manipulate the angles. You know, I mean, it just rode whatever angle you put it on. Brad, what did you pick?
The FD. So I also picked it because it was just a little bit more consistent, but I'm not going to bag either one of them.
Oh yeah, I will not bag any of these discs either. This kind of fills the void of probably my Escape or your Saint or your maybe a T-Bird or Thunderbird-ish. That Speed 7's kind of weird, but I know a lot of people that throw them. So it's all up to you on what you bag as that kind of flippy fairway.
I just don't really like that speed and stability. I've just never had any luck with it. So
Like, subscribe, Instagram, Facebook,
Jens
all
Guy
the
Snow
social networks.
Yeah, like it. Thanks. See ya.